What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to this episode of Split Screen D&D, the place where we're attacking all things Dungeons and Dragons from both sides of the screen. My name's Tom Quinn, resident dungeon master here at Modern Myth.
And I'm Josh Winans, resident player character here at Modern Myth.
And we hit the big 4-0.
Time to have our midlife crisis, my friend.
Man.
Let's go buy cars we don't need and
and spray some just let's fill some of those hairs in on top.
Dude,
that are,
I'm actually starting to ball. It's sad, man. Yeah, I just got to do it.
You gotta get yourself like an old Cressida, dude. Like nothing says midlife crisis like an old Cressida.
Let's do it, man.
All right, let's get after this. Episode 40. As you guys know, the formula around here is top 10s every 10th episode. And this one's going to be a bit of a departure, I think, from some of the other top 10s. Because the other top 10s were very much in the D&D wheelhouse.
Yes.
And that is not to say that this is not applicable. But I think it is a little more abstract. In some regards, I'm a little more... it's excited me a little bit to step outside the box.
It's fun, yeah, and it can be used, I think, in any system, really. At least I don't know what your list is going to look like, but
I think so. I think and that is the top 10. Or I say top 10, top 5 from each, but top 5. Let's call it protagonist archetypes, and so this is going to be drawing from characters from wherever they happen to be coming from, but with an eye towards why they represent important archetypes for narrative heroic awesomeness.
Absolutely. But before we launch into this epic top 10, hey, as always, thank you, the community, so much. Every time it's just so much fun. So if you haven't liked this video instantly, what's wrong with you? I mean, look at these guys. You need to like it. 2, subscribe so you can see more of these guys. And comment. Oh, man, again, comments section is just on fire.
Boss. Our comment section, I'm putting our comment section up against anyone's comment section.
Oh, I like it. Yep. I like it. If you want to support us directly, Patreon at patreon.com/modmyth or /
Oh, Jesus. / just / you know the /
and always, guys, if you find this this video entertaining, share it with your friends, with your uncle, with your dog who you love dearly. So
if he's got a YouTube account and can subscribe. Otherwise, don't worry about the dog.
Fair enough. All right, my friend.
Well, we threatened to kick these off with a little initiative challenge before, so you probably may or may not be able to see this, but it will be the first time that we're finally making good on that threat.
Right.
So time for the DM to show him how we do.
All right.
Oh, my God.
Drink the rest of your beer, bitch.
Well, he just rolled a nat 20, so very unlikely that I will be going first. All right, an 8.
This never happens to you. You usually spank me on dice rolls.
All right. Well.
All right. So I get to go first.
That's going to kick us off. Hit us with. Now, I want to say one thing. I don't know how yours is organized.
Yeah.
My list is not hierarchically organized. I could not. I rearranged it a few times and I went, no. It's just, they're just my top 5. That's not to say 1 is better than 5 is better than...
I kind of did. Okay. I think my number 1 is by far my favorite. Okay. And but so number 5 I think was low hanging fruit, which is why I put it at number 5.
Let's see it.
All right, so
we'll hear it.
Again, it's kind of cheating, I feel, because I'm pulling from Lord of the Rings, which is basically the grandpapa to D&D. But oftentimes I hear people who want to create that character who is that lone wolf, that guy in the corner, and I think that that Lord of the Rings pulled it off the right way with Strider / Aragorn. That's how you do that. Because when you first meet Strider, he is that guy in the corner, the pipe, almost said pipe weed. It was just pipe lighting up his features. Is he friend? Is he foe? There's something off about this guy. That lasts for a while. I mean, he takes him up to the room. He leads him out. You could even argue up until Weathertop. But even before then, something starts to change where he is no longer that the stereo, like, I don't care about you guys. No, he's almost automatically a team player. He's throwing the apple back at Pippin, here's some food. He's helping out the party. Yeah, he's still like distant. He's still mysterious. He still keeps these qualities. But you get a very quick notion that he's very invested in the quest of Frodo and the ring, and he wants to help the party succeed. I think that's how you pull off that mysterious lone wolfish character.
Is it fair to say that part of pulling off the mysterious lone wolf is letting it die, maybe even letting it die expediently? That's not to say all the trappings, like you mentioned, he still has some
Right.
qualities about him, but you know, you hear so often about the pitfall of wanting to play the lone wolf, especially all you rogues out there. This is a little
Or
bit of
warlocks, but yeah.
but you know, I think if you're filling out that archetypal vibe,
Right.
there is tremendous value in allowing that to peel back.
Yes.
And again, even if you want to keep up some of those trappings,
That's what I say. You can still, I think, keep up that. I want to keep my distance. When they all sleep together, I'm off and doing my own little thing.
Yep.
Like, that's fine. But like, oh, I'm going to go off and do my own little quest just because I feel like it. I'm not going to tell anyone I'm doing. And that's just, yeah.
Do they whip their heads around? Was there hair in your eyes there?
One
Or
eye, God, the emo face. Yes.
Well, and something else that I really like about that too is, as you come to know the rest of your companions, something I really like about that archetype, especially at a group setting like D&D, is you don't have to be blanket open with everybody. You might find that one character
That's true.
that you're willing to, you know,
Right.
maybe you see something in that character that reminds you of yourself or
Right.
someone you do care about, or, you know, what have you. And through that narrative process of that relationship forming, the rest of the party, generally speaking, is privy to the fact that no, you're not just the lone wolf, mysterious asshole who never sleeps with the party, and
We do orgies every Friday. Did you not get that hint?
do not get the memo. That's what we're about.
No, but yeah. So that was my number 5, because I just feel like that's such a bad trope that it's like, what's a good example of that trope? And
I like that.
Aragorn Strider really gets that.
I like clearing that up, because I think that gets harped on a lot, and I also think it's a trope for a reason, and it's not unreasonable for people to want to explore that.
Who doesn't
trope.
like that mysterious, like the Man with No Name trilogy? Like, who is that? That's another. I didn't put him down. I should have.
Jesus.
But that, who is this guy? You don't really ever know.
No, I 100%. I'm really glad you started with that, because and what I'm already loving about this segment is I think we each did our homework assignment kind of through different lenses.
Oh, I love it.
And so I think I'm like I said, I'm already liking the fact that that was a very kind of different approach than when I was thinking about combining my list.
Please, and thank you.
I am going to almost guarantee there's one potential overlap for us, but I'm almost going to guarantee that we are our lists there will be no Venn diagram of these lists,
right.
Which is often the case when
Yeah.
we're talking about classes, races, these types of things. So,
well, what's your number 5? You got me chomping.
In no particular order, but I'm gonna kick off with my number 5. That's gonna be let's go with Ellen Ripley from the Aliens franchise.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know her first name was Ellen.
Ellen Ripley.
I just knew it was Ripley.
Ripley.
One of the strongest female.
I don't even think one of.
Yeah.
I'll put in the comments who's stepping up to bat.
Yeah.
There is no stronger female protagonist than and I don't mean by power source and
No,
I mean execution of a role, of a character archetype. Ripley is it, and for a couple of reasons. And I'm specifically eyeballing Ripley in Aliens. But
the second one?
The second one, yeah.
Okay.
What I love about Ripley's archetype is that in Aliens, so the second film, Aliens, plural,
Yep.
I think is the first time where we actually see her assume the heroic archetype. Literally everything prior to going back in the nest to get Newt is her surviving. There's nothing heroic about her action. The entire first film is her surviving.
Oh yeah, it's a horror survival film. Yeah,
right. And what the way that I viewed most of these, I guess I could say, is through two primary lenses. One, kind of the let's say the classical literature sentiment of the source of conflict, be that man versus nature, man versus himself, man versus man. And I think clearly the Aliens franchise is a pretty good representation of man versus nature, or in this case, woman versus nature. But what I really like is she is a hero of necessity. She is a hero of consequence. She in the first one certainly didn't seek out the events that happened. In the second, she actively argued against participating. But when the time came and she had the choice between her and Hicks and Bishop jumping on that ship and getting the hell off that rock and nuking it, or going back for Newt, and that, like I said, that threshold that she crosses there really defines the heroic archetype that she steps into. And the beauty is that carries through the entire rest of the film. I mean, there isn't a more heroic moment than when she comes out in the loader. And I mean, that's like, that's some proper 5e shit right there.
Oh, it's so
prior to that, you get a whole lot of, less high tier.
So much.
But so through that lens, I like I said, kind of examining these various archetypes that I have on my list, and thinking about how that source of conflict impacts a character. Character is a very different character who is at war with themselves than is at war literally with the neighboring country, or through the lens of this kind of man versus nature enterprise, and kind of the source of that conflict, which in this case is as a protector, as a savior, as a and those two prisms were kind of the framing for each archetype that I was looking at. But I knew she from square one. It was the first one I knew was going to be on my list, only because it is, as far as I'm concerned, the most iconic female protagonist. At least in an action.
I'm sure that. Yeah, and then there's plenty of other great, but I mean, I have to agree. There's Ripley, man. How could you argue with Ripley?
Yeah.
One thing I liked about Ripley, especially in the second one, because in the third on it changes, but in the second one she's still just a human. She's not some weird. I don't want to give any spoilers away. But she's just...
If you haven't seen the Aliens franchise, it deserves to be spoiled for you. I don't care if you are 9 years old and you just stumbled onto YouTube. You're bad.
But in the future, other things happen. But in the second one, she's still just a girl. But I mean, she's just a human. And she's traveling with the baddest of the bad, man. The Space Marines are the bad mother effers.
And it's her who has survived, who has made that decision to, again, I mean, Hicks is injured and Bishop's an android. We can't trust androids.
That white blood shit.
Also some phenomenal special effects for their time anyways, but even still holding today. On your point about still being human, it's such a small detail, but one of my favorite things is she loads back onto the cargo elevator. She's going back down for the nest, and she's ditching her. She's setting up. She's getting ready to go. And now I'm going to mess it up. I believe it's probably for the pulse rifle. She's probably racking one of the under. There's the grenade launcher underneath.
Oh, yep.
And she struggles in racking it. There's so many moments on her way down where nowadays, as stories are told, the badass is being a badass.
Right. Never do they falter. Never do they.
And she's literally, I mean, she's in a dirty, crummy, I mean, she's sweating. You can tell she's, I mean, supremely well acted. She's terrified.
Absolutely.
And all of this plays into the fact that she does not want to go down there.
Right.
There's in many regards, that's truly what makes it heroic.
Right. That's it's one thing if you're not scared of anything, then why are you courageous for doing anything? If you're scared shitless but do that thing anyway, that's true courage.
Right. And I think that scene, returning back to the hive, encompasses that notion in a sequence of shots where they were so deliberate in their presentation of her as exhausted, injured, terrified, and doing it anyway.
This is making me want to rewatch that movie, man.
I'm always jonesing for a little Aliens action.
For sure.
All right, hit me with your number 4 there, brother.
My number 4 is something you might not be super familiar with.
Okay.
This is, I kind of went with an archetype for a spellcaster.
Okay.
And I went with Hermione Granger.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm familiar.
So you're familiar with the HP universe?
Yep. I mean, I'll say I am far from a Harry Potter fanboy, but I'm familiar enough that I think I can carry on a conversation.
So yeah, I definitely enjoyed the books, and it's been a long time since I read the books, but every like couple years I'll enjoy the movies. And what I enjoy about because when I think about famous wizards, Gandalf comes to mind, and nothing wrong with actually, I'm gonna argue. I was having this thought. I almost think Gandalf's a bard. Gandalf's a bard.
Don't say that. Let's just get back to Hermione.
Anyway, so Hermione, but like, there's some great ones. But what I love about Hermione is we just recently had a talk about martial and magic.
Yeah.
And I think Hermione is so good at being such a creative user of the spells. She knows the spells forward and backs and knows every little, oh, this is how I can use that spell for this. And just has such a breadth of knowledge that to me is kind of what makes a wizard or a spellcaster a spellcaster.
Right.
Is they live in this world. And it just shows the true power of it, that even at the low levels, minor illusion, you can use that to some supremely amazing effects.
Right. 100%. Yeah. I love the notion of, like you're talking about, kind of living and breathing in that space. And we've equated Dungeons and Dragons in general with musical performance. I think going a layer deeper into the game itself, that really, and this is not to step on the bard's toes, but really, in the same way that music is its own language, I think that arcane archetypes, when done well, feel precisely the same. That someone who has moved from, okay, I can whip up a couple spells, to I am a wizard, is the difference between someone being able to strum some cowboy chords and being able to improv with a band. Those are two very different skill sets, and
Pat Metheny, for example.
I think that transition, and I think she serves as a really solid archetype for brains over brawn.
Yes.
I'm not sure. I'm trying to think of all of the situations that the students throughout the books or movies come across, if there's ever a point where she attempts to lean outside of what she's good at. And what she's good at is magic. She's until I think she's the first one to try to drum up the solution.
Yeah, and I guess in the movie she did punch Draco Malfoy, which is a fucking baller.
She should have mage-handed that.
I know, right?
Some noob level.
Why did you not disintegrate Draco Malfoy? Yeah. But so but the kind of also with the Ripley, there are she's obviously afraid a lot of the time, but she does it anyway. She's like, all those kids are in over their head 99% of the time.
Right.
Like, they're doing things they should not be doing. But she's able to keep the calm head. She's able to.
Hogwarts is known as a party school, so
it's true, right? It's I can try to think of party schools. I guess Boulder will fit because we're from Colorado.
Yeah. See Boulder.
Yeah. That's a Hogwarts.
That's the Hogwarts of real colleges. No, I like that, and like I said, it's just interesting because I like the grafting. Would you say it's fair to say that she's very clearly a wizard?
I would say it's very clear that she's a wizard.
I think I would agree. I mean, I don't think there's much of an argument for a different.
She gets her magical powers through study, which is kind of what sets the wizard apart for sure.
Yep, love it.
All right, what is your number 4, my friend?
Number 4, like I said, I gotta pick the order as I go here. I gotta pick the order as I go here. My number 4, and I don't know that you're gonna be familiar with this one, but I think it's. It is going to be Tomas or Tommy, both the same character, from the movie The Fountain. I don't know if you're familiar with this movie.
I saw The Fountain, and I'm not going to lie, I might have been more than just slightly inebriated when I watched that movie.
All right. Well, that's probably how you should watch it. No, the biggest thing, kind of moving through those same lenses, like I said, when I'm thinking about characters, if I was thinking about making a character.
Is this the one with the tree?
This is one with a tree.
Thank you.
There is a tree. So now we're on the same page. For those who haven't seen The Fountain, I mean, it's certainly not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but it's an interesting film, and effectively kind of it is a depending on how you want to look at it, kind of a singular character being kind of told in these three phases. But it's the same actor playing these three characters, but the actor is fundamentally driven. I think this certainly falls into some weird amalgamation of man versus himself and man versus nature. In that the entire kind of crux of his character is an obsession, and this is a through line for many archetypes that I really enjoy, especially certainly protagonist archetypes. I think protagonist and hero, there is some delineation there. Just because you're a protagonist doesn't mean you're a hero. But his character is obsessed with beating death. His wife is dying, so in one of the storylines, he's attempting to cure her. He is a doctor and a research scientist, but it's kind of grafted in this old telling of the story in which he's playing a Spanish conquistador in Central America, and then this kind of weird. I think you could argue it's either a literal representation of the far future, or even just a analogous space, this kind of weird introspective space. But really, kind of what drove him to be on my list was this obsessive nature with. Again, I'm not going to list it because they may find their space elsewhere on my list, but the obsessive nature of a character that can drive them to heroics. In many cases, it can also drive them to quite the opposite. Obsession, I think obsession is a through line that will often either lead to being the hero or the villain of a story.
Or often both.
In many cases, both. And in fact, a lot of what his character is this duality between doing everything in his power to try and, again, in one storyline, literally combat death. And another storyline, kind of fighting by developing a cure for this. But that this, or I should say, less combating death and more the search. It's kind of the classic search for eternal life, the fountain of youth. Right. But that obsessive character is something when I think about building out character archetypes, it almost doesn't matter where you graft it. A character who will allow themselves to demise or even the things that they care about demise in pursuit of that obsession makes for very, very potent characters. And this is where I was kind of getting into our approach being very different.
Yes, this is very different.
When I was thinking about this from a character creation standpoint, it really kind of had to do with, what sorts of things might my character be joining a party that they could be obsessed with, because I love the notion about being a character, even if it's known or increasingly known to the party, that you care more about this obsession than the well-being of the party.
Paladins or clerics are probably putting their deity above the party. Warlocks could put their patron. So it's not that far out to think that that's a thing.
But I think too, there's a certain expectation, and this is the beauty, is I think if they can hone that obsession in a way that can benefit the goals of the party, that's what allows them to maintain their heroic status with the party.
Right,
but the moment in which the party's goals, and we've talked about this a lot with regard to conflict in the world, as soon as the party's goals conflict with the goals that are going to achieve that obsession, it is such a ripe space for something, very potentially having a very different relationship moving forward with. And I think, again, when I think about character archetypes, these are really interesting things to think about in your character relative to the party and relative to
Right. If you're obsessed with a thing, that doesn't mean that you can't challenge your obsession with the thing.
Absolutely.
But you like that doesn't mean like all of a sudden you're gonna do a 180. But be like, you know what? Oh God, I really want to find the book of the dead. I don't know, just going off something.
Yeah.
And then, but okay, I'll help my party for a little. I'm thinking of Amanda with her brother is
Right.
as somewhat of an obsession.
Right.
She's recognizing that the fate of the world is somewhat important and
Right.
is kind of put on the back burner.
And I would say actually that is what helps to divide her love for her brother from an obsession with, is that she's been able to, but let's say, for instance, her brother was terminally ill. Well, this is really leaning directly on the character from The Fountain, is
right.
where she knows that at the end of every session, I'm counting how much time has passed.
Yeah.
And at some point he's dead.
Yeah.
I could see her character having an obsession with solving that problem. Yeah. And if the party wasn't going to do it, I mean, all the more, if I went, okay, solving this problem will put you at odds with the party.
Yeah.
Here's the MacGuffin that the party needs, but it has the power to cure your brother too.
Ah, there you go.
Will you allow the party to take it and do the big picture thing, or are you
Yeah,
I love, especially again, heroes that are protagonists that we are rooting for, that we can actively watch them do things we know aren't in their best interest,
right.
aren't in the best interest of the things they claim to care about.
Right.
And again, generally obsession can be a driver for that. And it's something that I love in a focal point character, both at the table and in other forms.
I need to watch that movie again, but at the same time, I remember it being super heavy, and that's
it's pretty heavy movie.
So yeah. So we'll see. I'd rather watch Aliens, I think. Let's watch it.
I'm always good for any of these. I love these movies.
Oh, all right. Time for the hate. All right.
Oh, okay.
All right. Not from you. So, the next one, when I was thinking of the archetype of a leader, and there's so many great leaders in film and books, but I went with motherfucking Captain Picard.
Oh, here we go. Okay. All right. Well, now, I mean, you're not just riffing at this point. We're in the proper weeds here. So,
I will say, I think Star Trek in general, not every iteration of Star Trek, but I think Star Trek in general, the captains are generally very good leaders. I chose Captain Picard because me personally, I feel like he is the epitome of what a good leader is in the Star Trek universe. And the reason why is he is so good at hearing. He knows his crew's strengths. He knows what they're good at, and he also knows their weaknesses. And he takes all that into account. And he also is so good at processing it all and being able to figure out what path should they take going forward.
Okay.
And it's so as a leader at a D&D table, I feel like that's kind of what you need to be doing, is you need to be looking at everyone as what are their strengths and how could they help you achieve your goal? How can you help them achieve the goal that they're wanting to do? And it's and again, man, freaking Captain Picard of the USS Enterprise. I mean, holy cow, he is his I don't think this is a requirement for a good leader, but he is one thing I think I love about him more than
being
any other
really
captain.
shinily bald.
No, it's the Shakespearean actor method that he does all the freaking time. He'll like every once in a while he'll just go like full Shakespearean actor, like, geez, okay, Patrick Stewart, back it off a little bit. But he has his moralistic. He'll take what everyone says, but he is so rigid and well, I guess not rigid.
Self-assured.
That's a good way to put it. Because he understands philosophy. He has questioned his morality over and over and over again and has a very firm understanding of it.
Right.
And so he's able to make decisions based on that. And I think that just makes such a good leader.
Do you have an immediate thought of what a leader like that is best encapsulated in game?
Do you mean like
by class or by?
Ooh,
we've touched on a little bit. We haven't touched on all of these in this way, but it just got me thinking about that. When I think about leader, I mean, I don't think of Picard necessarily as a fighter, but I do think about kind of that battle master, kind of like this tactician when you're talking about these strengths and weaknesses. But I view him more as
and I go back to 4E when they actually had a leader and he had the
Right.
warlord, I think was what it was, and I could see him doing that. I could definitely see him being a cleric, more in the back, buffing his party. I could see him being and very wisdomous. I think is very good. I could see him as a bard. I mean, because bards are the best.
I knew you were gonna shoehorn that crap in here. No, that's
I think it's the second time I shoehorned bard
yeah.
into this conversation.
No, well, like I said, I certainly don't have near the dog in this fight that you and some of our commenters
and I
have.
do want to make very clear. I think all captains of no, that's a lie. I have my favorites. I'll keep them to myself. But I think good captains who are recognized as good captains in the Star Trek universe, they are all good leaders for that reason.
Yeah,
it's not just Kirk. It's not Picard. It's Kirk with Nimoy and Spock and with Bones and with Worf and with Beverly Crusher and oh god, I'm forgetting all my Deep Space Nine characters, even though I watched all of it. But yeah,
but well, and I think
Quark, it's all I can think of. Jesus.
I think it's a great point in that in many cases, and I think Star Trek as a franchise is a great representation of this. There always needs to be a captain.
Yeah,
but a captain without a crew and a captain without a ship ceases to be such.
You are not a captain unless you have crew.
And I think that there are entire archetypes that really cease to exist if there isn't a crew.
Yes.
You know, the classic heist genre.
Yeah, you need the mastermind.
Yeah, you've got the guy who organizes them,
Yeah.
you know, the kind of, you know, and the same goes for a lot of like, you know, A-team kind of, you know, this type of stuff. But, you know, you often have the guy who's the nucleation point.
Right.
And in most cases, he's the least specialized of any of them. That's why he's...
Right, I was about to say, Captain Card, no slouch in the punching department. He's punched an alien or two. But compared to Worf, who...
Right.
admittedly gets his ass fucking kicked for some odd reason. They'll pipe him up as some badass. He never kicks ass. I mean, it's really... Worf is fine. Sorry for my fellow Next Generation fans.
There is so much gasoline in the comments.
Oh god,
section
who else
right
can
now.
I piss off?
Yeah. Sorry. Say something bad about Star Wars, quick.
Oh
no,
god, that's
don't,
easy.
Don't actually do that. Don't actually do that.
So easy.
All right, but don't actually do that. No, I mean about one of the beloved films, not not one of the ones that is already like on fire.
Yeah, right.
No, I really, and I think that's something worth honing in on is, you know, in the conceptualizing of your character, you could conceptualize a character. Now, 5th edition really wants every character to be supreme. You know,
right. You're all the best.
Yeah, but I love the idea about intentionally creating a character who is the best at surrounding themselves with the problem solvers that are going to tackle any problem.
That'd be fun to play. Granted, I think you need a bigger table to pull that off.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, okay, as I piss off the internet, because I understand a large number of our fan base are Kirk fans. Kirk is great. I have nothing against Kirk. Picard's better.
Okay. Well, well, there that goes. Let's go. This one, I think I'm going to hit with. I'll get this one out of the way because I'm wondering if we overlap here.
Okay. Well, we're getting to the point.
General Maximus.
No, I did not put. Okay, I love General Maximus.
This is one that I thought we could overlap on.
Nope.
God. What I love about his character, and there are many. I mean, he is far from the only, but he fits the archetype of the very clearly already a hero for many reasons.
Uh-huh.
But the real reason that we are rooting for him, the real reason he's the hero of the film Gladiator, is because he has been ignited and is burning with, I would argue, vengeance.
Oh, just a little bit.
But there are many characters that walk that line between vengeance and justice. Now, again, I would say his position is vengeance.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think he's kind of had to be coerced into, hey, by the way, you could save Rome too by when you do this, but he just wants to kill Commodus.
Right. And but again, in that broader lens, I mean, there I don't know that there's a clearer representation of man versus man than and you know, 5e, I think 5e catches the flack for the 12-page backstories coming to the
I
table.
have no idea what you're talking about. I think mine was at least 15.
I don't think it was 15, but it was the longest at our table. Anyways. But in terms of, like I said, when I'm thinking about these archetypes, in a lot of cases I'm thinking about what conflict is shaping them. What's the nature of the conflict that is shaping them into the archetype and the hero or the protagonist that they are. And again, what is keeping them from just walking away? Because in so many cases, all a protagonist has to do to end it is just walk away. Ripley can board that plane and be gone, or board that ship and be gone. If he could let it go, like once he escaped, there's nothing forcing him to endure all of that conflict. But that's really, I think, that ignition point of, and again, the my whole family was murdered has graced a few backstory pages in D&D history.
And what I like about Maximus is that he was really reluctant, because his family gets murdered, and then he becomes a slave, and a gladiatorial slave, and he's like, well, I guess I'm going to do this or die. And so he's like, okay, I'm just going to fucking kill everyone. Who gives a shit? And it's not until his owner, and I forget his name right now, was like,
I can't believe, yeah. But get in the comments. You guys got this.
I know, right? But the guy was like, hey, you could stand before the emperor, and that was like, boom, that's when it hit. Oh, I could stand behind the emperor and get my revenge, and then that ignited him. Right. Yeah, that was such a cool moment.
And I think that again, kind of like with the obsession thing, and I think there's an argument to be said for that he has become at some point in the film obsessed with achieving
zero
it.
doubt.
Like I said, that is not an uncommon theme in archetypes and heroes and protagonists that I like, but we as participants to that story, we get to watch effectively him write his own death sentence throughout those courses of action. And it depends on how you feel about that for your protagonists and your heroes. But I think in many cases, there are so many examples of stories of people seeing 100 yards out that this is it.
Yeah.
That if they want to see this through, that's it.
Yeah.
I guess they don't technically, but I was going to say Frodo and Sam, but they made peace with that.
Yeah, there was that scene where they lay back on the rock, and there's like the 5 other endings that happen. William Wallace is another one that comes to mind. The historically accurate Braveheart, but I love this story.
Yeah,
it's such a good story. But he has the same thing.
And I think there's so many parallels you could draw between those two films.
Yes, and then every other Mel Gibson story then on in Patriot, We Were Soldier.
Man, why didn't I just do nothing but Mel Gibson choices here? But so as characteristics go, again, when I'm thinking about a character, I think grafted into the game, pretty obviously we're talking about a fighter here.
Yeah,
I don't think there's any question. I think there's he could fit into a number of martial classes, but I think again,
as barbarian.
I think he's repping hard for my Battle Master boy.
Yeah,
that's what I just love that subclass so much.
For sure.
But in the same way that he kind of has to whip the rest of the gladiators into shape. They were kind of a unorganized bunch, and like immediately his military action or his military.
I served with you and blah blah blah. Good, I can use you.
Yeah.
God, such a good scene.
Yeah. There are so many good. Again, I love the notion that that these protagonists, again, whether it's obsession, whether it's whatever it is that's driving them, are go to the ends of the earth, or in this case, the ends of their earth.
Right.
To see it done, and I think that's a hard aspect of an archetype. So we kind of talked about character creation, but I also think when we're thinking about the way our characters are developing, there is the reasonable question to ask: is my character the kind of character that will die to see this mission done? And when you consider that a campaign is made up of many story arcs, well, does that go for every arc? Does that only go for the what if you don't know where the big bad arc is versus that? Are you the kind of character who's willing to lay down on that grenade or battle to the end to see it through. And I don't think every character should be.
Yeah.
There's some characters that, they'll do everything in their power short of, they may have a short list of, I'm not going, this is as far as I go here.
But yeah, Max's, it was pretty much his own life. I don't know how much he's willing to he's very willing to sacrifice the lives of those around him to accomplish his goals as well.
Yeah, I think especially, I think coming as a soldier, as a general,
right?
understanding that those
are prices that must.
But
be
I
paid.
think if you were to ask that about his wife and child,
no,
then clearly that
Yeah,
otherwise the movie wouldn't exist.
Yeah, right.
You'd just be like, well, I guess I'll do some farming by myself then.
Yeah. Oh boy. Restart. All right.
What you got? Number 2.
Number two
here, sir.
So this next one, I was like, I was trying to think of a cool barbarian, and everyone always thinks of Hulk because you can't get much better with Hulk. That's not who I picked.
Okay.
I was like, I want to subvert expectation. What is a great way to subvert expectations for that kind of like dichotomy?
Okay.
It doesn't have to necessarily be a barbarian, but that that kind of thing. And
character duality, kind of.
Have you seen the space sci-fi known as Firefly?
Yes, of course I've seen.
So
Firefly.
River Tam.
Okay.
As like that, I think she's a great barbarian archetype because it is two totally almost distinct personalities. There is the admittedly incredibly broken River, but when that flip gets switched, which we don't really see in the show, we kind of have to watch the movie.
Right.
But when that flip gets switched, we see that that's the barbarian side comes out, and then, God, it's so sad it got canceled.
That's one of the more egregious lack of followings. I know. It's pretty hyped that they got their movie, but still, It's like when you consider some of the shows that have had 15 seasons.
Yeah,
and you go
this
like,
is good.
Yeah, no, I love that, and I think at face value, you're right. There's everything about her, the physicality of her character, defies, or subverts that expectation. And what I really like about that subversion is, whereas with the Hulk, you know precisely, like, oh, there's the barbarian,
right,
and there's just the or I should say, there's the rage and there's the regular guy,
right.
Is you don't have, in so many cases, this kind of Jekyll and Hyde duality. There is this notion of some physical, tangible feedback on that.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that there's something really cool about the archetype of just going like, no, nothing's changed. She's just super enhanced.
Right.
And when that
her reflexes are, she's more nimble and just like, and it doesn't have to be barbarian. I think this could go for any broken class. Because something that my wife, as she plays, she's like, it's hard to fathom my character going through the incredibly traumatizing things that they've gone through and come out able to function on any level.
Right.
It's like, yeah, you're kind of right. And this kind of gives you a way to play with that.
Right. Well, certainly, I think kind of the broken archetype, and I don't mean broken in the OP mechanical sense. I mean broken as in psychologically or emotionally, or but what I really do think makes her fit this barbarian space is the fact that switch is wielded as a weapon. And that's not to say that she has absolute control over that switch.
Yeah.
In fact, in many regards,
she didn't, until they were the Reavers were coming in, that we saw her activate it herself, knowing, because before that was the song or whatever, the advertisement activated it.
And I, to a greater or lesser extent, I think I prefer the archetype, at least initially. Like, I love the growth of finding some control over that.
Yeah.
But you couldn't package the Hulk more appropriately,
right,
in terms of especially the way it's developed now. Now he's just walking around as Hulk full time, like doing experimentation. Like he's not even.
Well, that is based on a comic book.
Yeah, so, yeah. But in that capacity, yeah. I really like. I think what really lends to that barbarian archetype is going, if you're not careful, I'm gonna switch it on.
Yeah.
And that is that innate threat that the
Right.
barbarian always has, and generally that's communicated in physicality. But there's no reason it has to be.
Right.
I mean, there's nothing about creating
Well, and
your
it
archetype.
actually in the show, I just remembered she did flip it on at one point. They were getting God, it's that freaking great episode when they get all of them are great, but when they get captured by the guy who tortures them, it's like they're taking back Mel and the pilot guy. God, I wish I was better at names. My life gets Walsh.
Admittedly,
Walsh. Was it Walsh?
that for some reason that doesn't sound right.
Whatever.
But they always help us out in the comments. But
thank you.
admittedly, it has been a long time since I've seen the
Okay.
series.
So the press is that they're boarding, and then it's just the engineer, sweet and little Kaylee,
Yep.
little engineer, and River kind of holding the ship, and they're freaking out. And she closes her eyes and points the gun, and boom, 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 everyone dies. And that kind of and she says, "Nothing in the verse can stop me." And it kind of like in that moment you discover that, oh shit,
Something's up.
She's not just crazy, she's like dangerous,
Crazy, barbaric.
right?
No, I think that certainly I think it I mean absolutely fits the mechanical archetype, and I think like I said, in kind of just the more general narrative sense, there's tons to be done with a character that, like I said, has been fractured psychologically, emotionally, whatever. I guess technically even physically, if you had a character who was, maybe a General Maximus, but is getting on in years and is broken. Some interesting things you could do with the physically fractured.
Oh, that'd be cool. I'm thinking of Logan. He's getting on in years, but he's still a barbarian. Yeah.
Ooh,
it's hard for him to get around. Oh God, it hurts.
But
when
that
that rage hits, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm
And when it bleeds off, oh God.
All right,
It's like being 35.
I don't even want to. Yeah, I know I'm older than you, but geez. Anyway, what's your next one, my friend?
All right. I think I know what I'm going to save for last. So I'm going to go with Dom Cobb of Inception, Leonardo DiCaprio's character in Inception.
Oh, okay. What? Where are you going with this?
Well, first and foremost, I don't know that. Now, I will start by saying there are probably as many takes on really what's going on in
my God! I watched
that top spinning at the end is
it never stops. So that means God.
There's but I will say I think it's actually one of the better on-screen a tangible representation of the man versus himself conflict. For a number of reasons, and one just being that it's a very difficult archetype to. I think it's probably of the sources of conflict or natures of conflict, it's one of the more difficult ones to implement at your table in a character, because and it, to some extent, kind of goes hand in hand with the idea about being fractured, but someone who is engaged in some conflict with themselves, for one thing, could be a bit derailing by way of the party, but the best way I think I could describe it is that the conflict that he is involved in, and this is something really kind of from the DM side, that I love the notion that we have absolute ability at tables to explore this. So it is an archetype, but it's specifically kind of initially an examination of that idea of a character at against themselves in conflict, and that we have all the tools in the world at TTRPG tables to explore that process in an equally tangible way. Okay. That there's nothing to, for this is not a direct example of that, but as an example, you guys traveled to a pantheonic court hearing.
Oh yeah,
for the soul of your uncle.
Yes.
Well, there's
normal Tuesday on D&D.
Normal 5e stuff. What were you, second level? No, I think it was a fair bit later than that.
Yeah.
But the point is there's no reason that that scene couldn't have been set in your own psyche. The
Yeah.
whole party there at your side fighting your demon. The reason I bring up Brands is because you end up actually fighting his literal demons.
Yes, which is super cool. Super cool
And
moment.
there's no reason. The reason I use that as kind of the backdrop for this conversation is because if there was a character who throughout the course of 5, 6, 7 levels, whatever it is, and however many, is obviously participating with the party, helping them move forward, but part of their character arc is overcoming this internal conflict.
Yeah.
There's some really cool ways to be able to explore that at the table.
Yeah.
And in many ways, there's often times where we are a little bit handcuffed in the TTRPG space in that we can't do some of the things that other narrative formats do, or I should say, we can do them, but it takes a little bit more creativity. Things like the cutaway we've talked about as, when we don't get that sneak peek, the post-credit scene
Right.
of the bad guy drumming his fingers and putting the crystal into the whatever,
Right.
and everyone going like, oh man, next time he's gonna have the crystal, like whatever.
Right.
This is one of those spaces where in the game, just by nature of it being a fantasy setting, and there's all sorts of opportunity to exist in a world that, even in the trappings of this make-believe world called Dungeons and Dragons or any tabletop RPG,
Right.
inside that world to exist in this make-believe world, which is effectively what the film Inception is
Yeah.
a sequence of these
Inside a world.
these dreamscapes, I guess, but the I think a lot of the conversation revolving around the film ultimately really kind of comes back to that notion of who was the target. Are they actually incepting the young tycoon who's recently taken the business from his company,
Right.
or is Cobb the actual target of the film?
Right.
And the inception is he needs to let go of the fact that he feels all this guilt over the death of his wife, and he's
Right.
never going to get back to his kids without. I mean, there's and in many regards, those two stories run in parallel throughout the film, but it really is kind of the examination of the archetype that kind of nesting into these earlier ones. If the obsession of fighting that war with yourself is to the detriment of everything around you, at some point, something's got to give, or you simply eat yourself alive.
Right.
And when I was thinking about this, like, this is the most DM lens one,
Yes,
was
for
just
sure.
the fact that I love the idea and the simplicity with which those types of conflicts and a character that brought that archetype to the table, that, again, in D&D standards, that can be a Tuesday. That doesn't, I mean, it takes
Yep.
very little to be interacting in a space in a tangible, meaningful way that is existing between that character's ears.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of his actual character, I would say he is probably landing somewhere. It's really tough to peg it, because you can lean into the whole Inception side of things.
Right.
He's fundamentally a thief. I mean,
Yeah,
that's literally
what- yeah.
his
He's a
job
con
was,
artist themed.
like conning people out of their memories or
Right.
their thoughts. And the Inception was just kind of the creme de la creme of that process.
Right,
Can
right,
you
right.
put one back? But I would probably land him somewhere in that rogue space. But you could also lean into all sorts of. I have a hard time not multi-classing him out. I think, especially when you're talking about all the Inception and mind games.
Yeah, I
stuff.
could see like a rogue mastermind.
Yeah. So now I know that one lands on the list as less of an archetype from the player perspective in that.
Yeah.
But it really, when I was thinking about him as a character, the DM in me was immediately going, there aren't many archetypes that you can tangibly put under a microscope.
Mhm.
Where you can say, hey, everyone, guess what we're doing today? We're
Going inside.
we're this character is literally the focal point of this entire quest hook.
Well, you tried to do that a little bit with us in our current game when we did the body swap. We got a little taste of that.
Yeah, I think that there's some that, and actually, as it happened, you guys were in a dreamscape during that.
Yeah.
So
It was almost the same.
some parallels.
Yeah,
I guess there could have been like multiple layers to that, and you guys not realizing that you were actually in a dream, and all that stuff. But
No.
but
That would have been weird.
anyways, an archetype that, like I said, the DM in me latched onto more
Yeah.
than maybe the prospective player.
Yeah. That's interesting. I like it.
Number one, sir.
All right.
You said this was a definitive number one.
This is because I think this fits this character could be anything, any class.
Okay.
Indiana Jones.
I may push back on that, but hit me.
Okay, wizard, maybe not. Okay,
well, I was gonna say immediately my mind went to wizard.
Yeah.
Albeit he's quite scholarly. Don't get me wrong.
He is, and maybe not a lot of the spellcaster. I could see him be because Bard is the best, and Indiana Jones is the best. I could see him being a Bard. But no, I don't mean that. But I mean, there are certain things that Indiana Jones and his character brings that I think can just go into any character. I was thinking Han Solo. Han Solo and Indiana Jones to me are very similar characters. But
it's the same person,
What?
But it just blew your mind. Sorry, spoilers, guys. Same person.
Harrison
same
Ford
actor.
Both. But what I love about Harrison Ford is he has like universal likable characteristics. So that if you come down and play a character, everyone at your table is probably going to be like, I like that guy.
Yeah.
You could throw Indiana Jones into, man, you could like, hey, you got some tanks going down. All right, let's ride horses. He rolls with everything. Okay, how am I going to stop the tank? I'm going to shove a rock in a turret. Like, he like at constant. Oh, there's a like. Constantly.
He is the master of creative play.
100%. And nothing phases him. Yes, he'll say the one line. He'll be like, oh my God. And then he'll go after it and he'll win.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Snakes face him. Snakes do face him.
Yes.
But I catch your point 100%. And kind of marrying with the nothing phases him, I think kind of you're talking about and how much this has to do with the characters and how much this has to do with Harrison Ford. But in both of those examples, Indiana Jones and Han Solo, neither character takes themselves too seriously. And when you talk about archetypes at the table, that's a trap you can fall into, especially talking about going from your 5 to your 1.
Yeah.
The lone wolf is
super serious.
Always known for maybe taking themselves a little too seriously. So I love that and how other end of the spectrum that
Indiana Jones also and Han Solo embraces their mistakes. I mean, what would Indiana Jones in the Raiders of the Lost Ark when he's up against the brick wall? What does he do? He just stands up there with an RPG. Dumbass, like he got captured. Like he does that kind of shit a lot. Like, and Han Solo does too.
Yeah,
but he embraces it and he rolls with it and he comes out the other end somehow victorious.
This again maybe isn't so much a commentary on the character archetype as it is more. The more you talk about Indiana Jones and actually Han Solo, the more I think about player type. And both of those characters know how to enjoy failing. They know how to not take themselves too seriously. They know how to and what that brings to a table. Both of the in archetype, certainly you can take that Indiana Jones archetype and much of that applies. But everything you've been saying, I'm going, these are great qualities. These are great characteristics for a character and a player, to bring to the table. So I really like that. I like I said, I think we already shored up. I would push back only in the sense that
wizard,
I don't think he's a caster.
Sorcerer, and he could be like druid, maybe not. Okay, so but there are personality quirks that you could take if you put a little bit of Indiana Jones in your wizard. Right. It's not gonna
and I would say too that if you put a few crystal skulls in his hands and maybe
no.
Next
you're gonna tell me the redid Next Generation and there's another show with Picard going around. That shit doesn't exist.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna stay quiet about that one. But no, I 100% Agree. I mean, I fully anticipated. I'll say I fully anticipated.
Yeah, I
much you
make
enjoy
no
this character.
hide of my love for Indiana Jones.
But I was torn. I was wondering if Han Solo was potentially going to show up on there.
They're kind
in
of
place
very
of,
similar.
or yeah,
in
they
a
are
lot
very
of
similar.
ways.
I think that probably my favorite thing about Indiana Jones, and both for the character and the archetype, is that archetype can survive a nuclear blast if they're in a 50s era refrigerator.
Yeah.
Hang
on, I don't know what movie is this? It doesn't exist.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's
sorry, it doesn't exist.
No, I mean, as archetype goes, I think anyone who has ever sat down at a table with an Indiana Jones, but like the archetype, like you said, this is a very, very difficult archetype to be at odds with, because again, they're going with the flow. They're taking creative shots where they can. And they're not taking themselves too seriously.
There'll probably be contention because again, they're more of a fire from the hip kind of guy. So you might be caught in the crossfire, but there's something likable about that.
Oh, definitely. So, well, and certainly from a narrative standpoint, I mean, we've talked about it on a number of different topics. It comes up where, thinking about things too much so that you can do the optimized thing.
Yeah.
Rarely results in the most exciting and interesting.
Yeah, are memorable. Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's and more often than not, it's going like, all right, see those horses over there? Let's jump on those. It's like, well, and do what? And put some rocks. Put some rocks in those.
That's just such a ridiculous scene. I love it so much.
But the cool part is again, I mean, like to some extent, that's precisely the type of shenanigans. There's all sorts of shenanigans that can be derailing.
Yeah.
But if you've presented an encounter and a player goes, well, I don't got anything better, so we're jumping on those horses. Let's get it done. Like it's the nonchalant nature of moving through.
It's something I just thought. Sorry, I want to move on to your number one, so I'll make this real quick. Is that he's a very loyal friend. Han Solo is definitely this. Indiana Jones is as well. So when he gets betrayed by Brody, that hurts him because he trusted Brody,
right?
And he has problems with his father. They obviously meant that, but his friends mean so much to him, and they just add to him. Which again, at the table of D&D, that's such an important thing.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it.
All right, yours, my friend.
My last one is going to fit kind of more the anti-hero
Deadpool
space. I think everyone thinks Deadpool. The second you say anti-hero, I think everyone thinks is Joel from The Last of Us.
And I own PlayStation, and I've never played The Last of Us.
I'll say this: you're doing yourself a huge disservice by not playing the first one, at least.
Right, and it's even on my freaking because it was free game, and
it is. And here's what I'll say: I'm not sure that. Don't get me wrong. I can never remember his name. Red Dead Redemption 2.
John Marston, and keep going. I'm sorry, internet. I can't remember names because I played the shit out of that game.
But in terms of protagonists in the narrative arc, really solid stuff. Both Red Dead Redemptions. I mean, there's really solid stuff. Good. But I think I really struggled. I knew I wanted to put some sort of video game reference. I set out to when I was making the list.
Didn't make any.
And I rapidly had a hard time eclipsing Joel's character. And what I love about his character is, one, when we meet him, he's certainly not the hero. I mean, he's effectively a smuggler.
Right.
And, well, I feel really bad about this now because
so don't spoil too much, but because that is one of the games that's on my list. But
okay,
I understand what he meets as Ellie.
Yeah.
Ellie.
So this is going to dramatically change what I'm going to say about him because there's some things about him.
If you want, I'll plug my ears.
No. I'll work around it. I care about his character and the narrative structure of the story.
And
that
if
they
it
told
helps you,
enough.
I do understand. Like I know somewhat what happens and all that.
Well, all I'll say is that we meet him as kind of in the same way that I think, at least initially, Han Solo is an anti-hero. I mean, I think he becomes a hero. I mean, he opts to come back and do
that's the thing. When he
the
comes
right
back
thing.
in the Millennium Falcon,
I think that the biggest thing with Joel's character as you are moving through the story is the progression that he's going through in his relationship with Ellie, which obviously changes dramatically. I mean, there wouldn't be much of a story without the growth of that relationship. But without spoiling the ending, I think his actions, the way that the first game ends, is as strongly in retention of his position as the anti-hero as maybe any character that I can think of. Because so many arcs go, here's an anti-hero, but don't worry, at some point the good guys are gonna have their influence on him, and he'll be back, and he's gonna, it's always that the final fight, and the guy shows up and he's all, look like you could use some help, that vibe. And that is not to say that I think the biggest thing with his character is, one, he is defined by the loss of his daughter.
Yeah. I know. You're not spoiling.
Okay. Yeah. So again, a lot of the earlier stuff, it'll be.
Yeah.
In fact, I think the initial cutscene / sequence basically sets that for you. And I think that the impact when you're thinking about these character archetypes, like I said, many of these, I was thinking about if I was making a character and I was just giving these thought, is what impact has the losses that I have incurred in my life, what impact does that have on the relationships that I am developing moving forward? Because for many characters, or really all characters, that relationship is starting with session 1. You're sitting down with these other players. What have you lost in your life? What have you, what have the experiences in your life? And I mean, really kind of the crux of the game is telling the story about that. Like for his character anyways, is what, how does this relationship manifest in the wake of that loss? Right. And with this obviously kind of post-apocalyptic backdrop. But I think the actions, and there's going to be many people who know what I'm talking about. At the very end, a decision is made, a definitive decision is made that I think definitively secures his status as having not morphed into the hero of the story. That doesn't mean I don't think what he did was right. That doesn't mean I don't think, right. But it definitively solidifies that he has retained anti-hero status. And I think it's one of the examples, kind of like the lone wolf thing. Like I would never go, yeah, you can be a lone wolf by level 20. You can keep being that,
Yeah.
In a lot of cases, and arguably, I would have to really work to find some other examples of places where we're rooting for the character despite having not turned that corner into proper herodom.
Right.
Having retained that anti-hero status and still being beloved by the audience. The audience isn't going, I wish you had done the other thing, you know? And I think that to some extent, it's a testament to the storytelling and the narrative.
Yep.
But I also think it's a testament to a character and kind of to the point that we talked about earlier, a character who can see the consequences of their actions, and those actions and those consequences be bad. Could be for them, could be for someone else, could be for, and
that makes the character endearing though. So I haven't played this game, and I need to. I know I'm gonna I get roasted a lot, and that's fine. Let me have it, internet.
I'll be curious here. I mean, drop in the comments for what your thoughts are on the game. The second one was pretty divisive in terms of
I think it's universally understood. The first one is a masterpiece, and I haven't played it, and I understand that. But
if you don't play it, I think Netflix is going to do a series.
Don't.
No.
Fucking shit. Are they? They are.
God, someone is. I don't know who's producing it, but
of course
someone's doing it. Someone's
Fuck,
saying.
I'm sorry.
I've got really high hopes for it. I should say I've got high hopes for it, but they're jaded.
Yeah,
and
just like the Lord of the
pessimistic
Rings.
Yeah, I mean,
have you seen this new Ring of Power shit?
I have not.
Oh,
But
yeah.
but it's just the deal where like I said, I really would love to see it be a
Well, like what they did with Dune, man. When they granted they had the fucking fantastic director behind Dune, but so it sounds like what makes Joel. So, cause Joel is still the anti. So he does things that we don't agree with all the time. But what makes him the hero? Is it the relationship that he has with Ellie that still endears us to him?
I don't think he is the hero. He's the protagonist, but I don't think he's ever the hero.
So
I don't think I think he, from square one, embodies the anti-hero. I mean, he's definitely has not been a good guy. There's plenty of intimations that he's done terrible things, and there's plenty of intimations. I mean, that's kind of surviving in this world now.
In
But
that world.
but he's someone who doesn't. There's no sentimentality in having to do them. He's a pretty callous character.
Right,
In terms
if
of,
he's got to murder some babies,
Yeah.
he's going to murder some babies.
well, yeah, probably. No, but it's like, I mean, and there's plenty of reinforcement of that,
Right.
of where, again, like in the pursuit of the things he does care about,
Yeah.
which, I mean, I don't think I'm spoiling anything, becomes Ellie throughout the course of it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a borderline. I mean, the notion of a character like Joel's who's lost his daughter, who spends a significant period of time surviving with what is effectively his cargo. That's what he's smuggling Ellie, but
Right.
I mean, anyone can just hear that premise and go like, oh, do they start forming a relationship in the
Right.
wake of his daughter? And I think a huge amount of the complexity of his character, this isn't so much tied to the archetype, is that he struggles heavily with the fact that he is beginning to feel something. Like there are many
That's awesome,
intimations of this being a kind of a betrayal to his daughter's. That should.
That's
and
awesome. I need to
some-
play this game.
There's some. It is. I think as a character, I think the game has some exceptional narrative work, but the as a character, I think he is an exceptional. And from a writing standpoint, an unapologetic character. I think there would be so much pressure as a writer to want to see the corner turn. And I think there's actually probably going to be some people in the comments who are going to go, no, what he did at the end was heroic. He is the hero at the end.
Right.
I'll fight that battle in the comments here.
Let him have it.
But-
Roast me for Captain Picard, roast him for Joel.
but it's just the deal where I think there is a pretty stark delineation in terms of why his actions at the end are not the heroic actions. They're still anti-heroic.
Right.
But it's like I said, and I think that's the beauty of his character, and really of the kind of to some extent the archetype is, as consumers of narrative,
Yeah.
as organisms that like to consume narrative and like a nice tidy movement through that narrative with whatever your 3-act structure and
Right.
certain character arcs and redemption stories and all these tropes that make up great stories. There is so much pressure, I think, from an audience as they're watching any story to see Han Solo come back
Right.
and help.
Right.
To see and he'd be a very different character if he didn't.
Right.
We'd feel very differently about him. In fact, there's so much catharsis narratively built into that act of a character that we kind of go like, you slimeball, showing back up.
Right. This when I'm hearing this list, this is so much obviously you're the DM and I'm the PC.
Yeah, I think so. I hope so. I think because I hope when we're doing these top 10s that to some extent I will say I've dropped the ball on really being DM focused on some of our lists.
Okay.
But moving forward, it's certainly my intent to be thinking about these.
I think you did that a good job here because I was like, oh god, that'd be a hard character to play. Joel would be a fucking hard. Like I don't know. Again, I haven't played the game, but just listening to it, that'd be a really hard character to play.
Play the game. Play that game.
I will.
Play the game in the comments. If we get 5 play the games in the comments,
listen,
then Josh has to play it.
Guys,
and do
I
a
have
status
a job and a YouTube channel and a kid I'm trying to raise.
So he's got plenty of time.
I got lots of time.
No, it's like I said, it's I can't, again, I'm trying to drum up other definitive anti-heroes who maintain that status. It's in a different way. It's because come the end, I mean, there's no point, I think, at which Deadpool isn't the anti-hero. I mean, he maintains his anti-hero status.
Yeah, because
throughout.
You have one shot. He fucking takes a little 22 pistol and pops them in the face. It's fucking hilarious.
But the thing is I think it's kind of reveling in that fact. Like, there's no point at which we as an audience are questioning, is Deadpool going to stop being Deadpool?
No,
it's like, no, that's, you know, and I think there's everything about Joel's character as you're moving through that is promising you that he will make that turn, and he will. And I think that like I said, I think you would not, despite all of your narrative intuitions, you would not be satisfied if he did.
Yeah.
And so it's a total subversion of that idea.
I like it a lot. Man, okay.
I think that's top 5. What I want to hear from everyone at home, I mean, you hit us with your top 5.
First off, who won? I don't
know. I don't even know what to put up against what. Just who won.
Okay,
just put it. It doesn't even matter. Usually we have like a, you know, I've lost every time, I think, so far. So
did you lose the last one?
I don't even know that there was a definitive winner.
No. Anyway,
but it was me who won. So you just put that down in the comments. And no, I thought both lists. And like I said, I really loved that as we're going through them, we clearly approached the assignment from kind of a different vantage point.
That's kind of the whole point of our channel, bud.
Both
sides of the screen, bitch.
Both sides of the screen. That's how we're doing it here. Drop down in the comments. I want to hear your top 5. I want to hear, I mean, it can be archetypal, or it can just be like, I love these 5 characters. These are the top 5 characters. Yeah. Obviously important though. Why? Why do you love those characters? And how's your love for those characters shaped the way you think about character creation in the game world? Or if you're a DM out there, shaped the way you punish the hell out of those players for building weak, meaningless characters.
God, it comes out every once in a while. It's your DM side. It comes out.
Every now and then. I do my best to keep it under wraps.
All right. How do you want to bring this one out?
I think we want to take this one out. This may be the easiest or the hardest assignment that I have ever given you. You can pick any character off of your list, and then here's the deal. With that character, no names of people, places, or things, or I guess things, but you know, no hard references.
Okay.
You guys put down in the comments which of his characters he's doing his The World Is Yours at.
We find ourselves the edge of humanity. And we look around, and what do we see? We see life. Life in all its glories, its glorious ambitions, and its damnable sin. But that does not take away that we are life. For you see, when I look around, I see that the world is yours.
Was that Kirk?
Fuck you!